We're live.
All right.
So, welcome to our first live Innovation Minutes. This is exciting, Dan. We've been talking about doing this for a while.
I know, and we've had lots of great off-air conversations. So this is our effort to kind of surface those and create a larger dialogue about all the interesting things going on in tech and innovation and the crossover between politics and our world.
Yes. I think this is the right moment to start having these live discussions. I mean, this past week has been so fascinating from both a tech, I think, and a business perspective in relationship to what's happening, not only in the US, but the world's reaction to us as well. Because, Silicon Valley has largely been a very apolitical place for a while now.
Yeah, at least the last 8 years.
Yes. And so it's interesting to see what's happening in Silicon Valley, but also what's happening across industries at the moment. Where there's this push specifically from employees, and I think from some of the international CEO community, a lot of the leaders of these companies are foreign born, to really come out and articulate what their company believes in. And I think this gets to the heart of a lot of what we're passionate about, which is, creating a company culture where people feel supported and where innovation can thrive and flourish. And it's easy to dismiss the importance of that when things are going, quote unquote, well, and it's business as usual. But I think it's moments like these where we're really called to reflect on who we are and what we stand for as employees, as citizens, as large or small organizations.
Yeah, and I think it's also really interesting just to see the different ways that the different companies are approaching it. Not just companies, but the different personas that we know. I think we were talking earlier about like Elon Musk is taking one specific route which he feels is the best, right? So he's trying to change things from the inside, which you can make an argument for. And then there's the more vocal opponents to a lot of the things that are going on, which are trying to take the more I don't want to say they're protesting, but they're definitely looking to work around or outside of the new administration. So it'll be interesting to see as things progress how those two different approaches succeed or fail.
Yeah, and I think this is also one of those moments where you really see who are the leaders that stand for something within different companies. You see companies like even Goldman Sachs and Ford, where their senior leadership is speaking out and saying, here's what our company is all about. And so as a consumer, I pay attention to that. I'm interested in where my purchasing power is, what it's supporting. And then from someone inside the innovation space, it makes my ears perk up and think, okay, here's a company where they're not tone deaf, where they actually are interested in the well-being of their employees and the world at large that they're serving.
Well, not just that.
Opportunity there.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think a lot has been surfaced in the headlines recently. At least since the election and the inauguration, about H-1B visas and how Silicon Valley has been a real benefactor, or has really supported that program and take advantage of it. Some people would argue that they've abused it, which you could probably argue either way. But I think the more important kind of overlying societal shift or change that we want to look at is we invite all these smart people here to go to our universities. In some cases now, there's been articles just this past week and the week prior about Chinese families sending their kids to high school here, right? So we need to look at those kind of policies and really think about number one, I think personally I feel like they're good for our country. I mean, I think that's just my view, and I think you agree.
Yeah.
But we need to look at the longer term implications of that. So if people are sending their kids here to go to school and get an American education because, you know, we've got a really good university system and everything. What are we doing to retain those people? You know, because it seems to me that you could reason that attracting the smartest people in the world to this country and then keeping them here for a number of years or the rest of their lives to start businesses, to, you know, attract other smart people to come here. That seems like it's in the best interest of the United States. And I don't see how you could really make an argument otherwise.
Well, yeah, I agree. And it's interesting because you have kids and your kids are, you know, going to school alongside these individuals. And so they're the generation that's going to move into this completely, in many ways, changed space of increased diversity and competition. And I think that's a good thing. I think when we think about Silicon Valley, but also business in general, you know, what are the things that organizations care about? They care about, as we just said, having access to the top talent, whether it's, you know, native born or someone coming from another country. They just want to be as competitive as possible. And they also care about scaling, whether it's a startup or a corporation. They want to know that their message, their goods, their services can reach the largest number of people. And so that's where policy decisions, those two things in particular, it's not just about it being political. I mean, it becomes about how business can or can't be done.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And, you know, we should also note that, you know, we come from the bluest of blue states and probably the bluest region of the bluest state. You know, so we definitely have that perspective and, you know, we're faced with it every day. But I think, you know, one of the, you know, it's pretty widely understood that one of the big reasons that the election went the way that it did, you know, other things aside, is the fact that there is a segment of the workforce that has largely been left behind. And, you know, I read an interesting article, or no, actually it was I think it was a TED Talk about automation and how that's impacted the workforce. But basically, you know, he brought up the fact that in the early 1900s, the United States had what was called the high school movement, which was we put a lot of funding into high schools and taking these people who had previously been working as, you know, farmers and were kind of put to the wayside by the Industrial Revolution and retrain them. It basically pushed everybody through high school so they could have a high school education and participate in this new economy. And I feel like we have an opportunity to do that now. And that's something that we really need to think about. In addition to attracting the best and brightest, we also need to take this segment of our population that's already here and bring them into this new economy.
Yep. Help them to reimagine the role that they can play when it comes to innovating in terms of their own lives. You know, one of the things I talk about a lot in my book, Start Up Your Life, is complacency and how dangerous complacency is. And I think that so many of us in various ways, both in our personal lives and in business, have and had become very complacent. And so recent events and everything getting kind of shook up, this is a real wake-up call for us to nudge ourselves out of complacency. And I think that's a really good example of how we can really start to reimagine, you know, how can these individuals still actively contribute to the economy?
Right.
And I think also where does tech play a role in that? And then also where do large organizations, like what's their role in that as well?
No, and I think that's exactly the point, you know, and if we make no other points today, I think that's kind of the important thing to hit on is, you know, this with everything going on right now, there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of people disagreeing and, you know, kind of taking their sides and sticking to them. But, you know, from a startup or an entrepreneur perspective, or even an enterprise perspective, I think that's where the real opportunity lies. And, you know, there's been a lot of movement in the ed tech space in the last, you know, 5 or 10 years even. You know, but how can we leverage technology? How can we support startups that are looking to solve this problem? Because this is the problem. You know, it's not going away. This is like a worldwide, you know, populist issue that's going to continue to impact the established order until we do something about it.
Yeah, I think that's right. And, you know, if we look at what can tech do to solve some of these current issues and what things have been highlighted, I think, you know, tech played a huge role in creating the polarization that we have seen and the moment we've come to. And now we have to look at it and think, how can tech help to heal that? And then, you know, if tech created a fake news problem, how can it help to solve that? And also, I think cybersecurity. I think that's something that the everyday person, as well as large organizations, is legitimately concerned about, and rightfully so. And you know, I think that is, I can't speak for everyone, but I think that many people feel that is as much of an everyday threat to them as the elusive terror threat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's really it's such a big unknown, you know, because the rules were kind of rewritten back when the whole Stuxnet thing happened, right? You know, it something finally came to the surface where there was an acknowledgement that this kind of thing existed, and now, you know, if the U.S. and the Israel have these kind of weapons that Russia does, that China does, so there needs to be, you know, much along the lines of how everybody got together and talked about all the nuclear weapons and put in place agreements and understandings. Something has to be done along the same lines on the cyber front. And yeah, and we're almost out of time here, I think.
Yeah, I guess, you know, I think my final thoughts is like, you know, operating in Silicon Valley and helping to bring the Silicon Valley mentality to organizations everywhere is certainly a big task, but I think it's more important than ever right now, because Silicon Valley is recognized as being futuristic, as being future thinking, as sort of leading the revolution in what we create, how we live our lives. And so if that's what Silicon Valley is going to claim as its role, then I think now is its time to step up, and now is the time for any large organization that wants to be in on that wants to also be thought of as future-minded and progressive, to stake its claim and to make a name for itself. I think the time is now for that.
No, I think not only is it the time, but I think it's also the obligation.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
We want to know if you agree. So please leave some comments. Let us know what you think about our opinions, and let us know if there's something you think we should chat about in the future, because we're going to do this every week, hopefully. Barring any major event that would hinder us from doing that. So yeah, I guess I'll talk to you again next week, Dan.
Yep, that's a wrap.
Okay.